What if I told you that a federal judge was caught on tape trading innocent black lives for wealthy white criminals' freedom? Have you ever felt like the system was rigged against you? Have you watched someone get away with something while others paid the price unfairly? Well, what you're about to hear will shake your faith in justice itself and show you how one family's fight exposed corruption at the highest levels. In the small town of Millbrook, the courthouse stood as a symbol of justice and fairness. Its marble columns and American flags suggested a place where truth mattered more than color or wealth. But behind those heavy wooden doors, a different kind of business was being conducted. Andre Mitchell, a 23-year-old black man with dreams of becoming a teacher, had never been in trouble with the law. His biggest crime was a parking ticket from 2 years ago that he'd paid immediately. Yet on a Tuesday morning that would change his life forever, Andre found himself standing before Judge Clarence Wilkes, accused of a robbery he didn't commit. What this racist judge didn't know was that the FBI was already recording everything, and his next decision would destroy his career and expose a web of corruption that reached into the town's most powerful families. If justice and accountability matter to you, hit that like button right now. The charges against Andre were based on the flimsiest evidence imaginable. A convenience store robbery had occurred 3 blocks from his apartment, and the only evidence linking him to crime was a witness who claimed to have seen a tall black man running from the scene. Andre was tall. Andre was black. In Judge Wilkes' courtroom, that was apparently enough. Andre's court-appointed lawyer, overwhelmed with cases and underfunded, barely had time to review the file. The security footage from the store was mysteriously corrupted. The witness couldn't identify Andre in a lineup, but insisted it looked like him from a distance of 50 yards at night. As Andre sat in the defendant's chair, his mother clutched her purse in the gallery behind him, whispering prayers she hoped would reach beyond the courthouse walls. His younger sister held back tears, unable to understand how her brother, the same man who helped elderly neighbors with groceries, could be sitting here accused of robbery. Judge Wilkes presided over the proceedings with cold efficiency. When Andre's lawyer attempted to challenge the weak evidence, the judge cut him off with impatient waves. When character witnesses tried to testify about Andre's reputation in the community, Wilkes limited their testimony to mere minutes. "The evidence is clear," Judge Wilkes declared, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "Mr. Mitchell, you're found guilty of armed robbery in the first degree." The sentence came swift and harsh, 8 years in state prison. Andre's mother collapsed in the gallery. His sister's muffled sobs filled the courtroom. Andre himself sat frozen, unable to process how his life had just been destroyed by a system that was supposed to protect the innocent. The gavel fell with finality, sealing Andre's fate. But while Andre was led away in shackles, another young man sat in a different courtroom just down the hall, facing the same judge for the exact same crime. But while Andre sat behind bars, the real criminal walked free with nothing more than community service. Down the hall, 17-year-old Kyle Brennan sat comfortably beside his high-priced attorney, Richard Steinberg, who commanded $800 per hour. Kyle's father, Thomas Brennan, owned half the commercial real estate in Millbrook and had contributed generously to Judge Wilkes' last election campaign. The evidence against Kyle was overwhelming. Security cameras from 2 different angles clearly showed his face during the robbery. His fingerprints were on the store counter. The stolen cash was found in his BMW, along with the weapon used in the crime. 3 independent witnesses identified him without hesitation. Yet Judge Wilkes approached Kyle's case with remarkable patience and understanding. "Your Honor," Attorney Steinberg began smoothly, "my client is a good kid who made a terrible mistake. He's been accepted to Princeton University. His future shouldn't be destroyed by one moment of poor judgment." Judge Wilkes nodded thoughtfully, as if weighing the cosmic importance of Kyle's Ivy League education against the trauma of an armed robbery victim. "Mr. Brennan," the judge addressed Kyle with gentle concern, "I can see you understand the gravity of your actions. You come from a good family with strong community ties. The same crime, the same courtroom, the same judge. But Kyle received 200 hours of community service, 2 years of probation, and his record would be sealed when he turned 18. Kyle walked out of the courthouse that day to his father's waiting Mercedes. He'd be starting Princeton in the fall as planned. Meanwhile, Andre began his first night in a concrete cell, wondering how the same justice system could produce such vastly different outcomes. The whispers in Millbrook started immediately. How could two young men, accused of identical crimes with vastly different evidence, receive such opposite treatment? The answer lay in something most people were afraid to say out loud. Comment below. Have you seen this kind of double standard in your community? Andre's mother, Dorothy Mitchell, wasn't the type to give up quietly. A church secretary for 20 years, she knew how to organize people and make phone calls that mattered. Within a week of Andre's sentencing, she had contacted the NAACP, the Southern Poverty Law Center, and every civil rights organization she could find. Something isn't right about this, Dorothy told NAACP attorney Marcus Williams during their first phone call. My son got 8 years for a crime with no evidence, while that Brennan boy got community service with cameras showing his face clear as day. Williams had heard similar stories before, but the stark contrast in this case caught his attention. He made his own calls, and within days, a formal complaint landed on the desk of FBI Special Agent Rebecca Torres at the federal building in Atlanta. Torres specialized in public corruption cases and had seen her share of crooked judges. But the Mitchell-Brennan comparison was so blatant, it practically screamed federal civil rights violation. She opened an investigation immediately. What Judge Wilkes didn't know was that his courthouse was about to become a federal crime scene. FBI technicians, posing as maintenance workers, installed recording devices in his chambers and the hallways where he conducted his private business. His phone calls were monitored. His emails were copied. Within 3 weeks, the FBI had recorded Judge Wilkes discussing cases with Thomas Brennan and other wealthy contributors. The conversations revealed a systematic pattern. Lenient sentences for defendants whose families donated to his campaigns, harsh punishments for those without political connections. But the most damaging evidence came from an unexpected source. Judge Wilkes' own court reporter, Maria Santos, had been keeping detailed notes about his biased behavior for over 2 years. Disgusted by what she witnessed daily, she contacted the FBI herself and offered to wear a wire. I became a court reporter because I believed in justice, Maria later testified. But watching Judge Wilkes destroy lives while protecting his friends, I couldn't stay silent anymore. The FBI now had an inside source documenting every corrupt decision in real time. Share this story if you believe corruption should be exposed no matter how powerful the person. 6 months of surveillance culminated on a Wednesday morning that Judge Wilkes would never forget. FBI agents executed simultaneous raids on his home, courthouse chambers, and bank accounts while he sat in his judicial robes, completely unaware that his world was crumbling. The evidence was devastating and undeniable. Hidden recordings captured Judge Wilkes in his own voice, making deals that destroyed lives for campaign contributions. In one particularly damaging conversation with Thomas Brennan, Wilkes was heard saying, "Don't worry about Kyle. I'll make sure he gets community service. These rich kids deserve second chances, not like these other types who belong in prison anyway." Maria Santos' wire recordings revealed even more shocking details. During Andre's sentencing, Wilkes had told his clerk, "Mitchell's family can't afford to help my re-election campaign, so he can rot in prison for all I care. Maybe it'll teach these people to stay in their place." The FBI discovered email exchanges showing a clear price list for judicial favors. Drug charges for wealthy defendants cost $50,000 in campaign contributions. Assault cases could be reduced to misdemeanors for $25,000. Judge Wilkes had turned his courtroom into an auction house where justice went to the highest bidder. But the evidence went beyond just Andre's case. FBI investigators found 17 other instances where black defendants received harsh sentences for crimes that resulted in probation or community service for white defendants with identical charges and worse criminal histories. The arrest came during Thursday morning court session, as Judge Wilkes prepared to sentence another young black man to prison. Federal agents walked into his courtroom, badges displayed, handcuffs ready. "Judge Clarence Wilkes, you're under arrest for conspiracy to violate civil rights, mail fraud, and accepting bribes in connection with your official duties." The courtroom erupted. Wilkes' face turned pale as the charges were read aloud. His hand shook as the handcuffs clicked into place. The same hands that had signed Andre's unjust sentence now powerless to stop his own downfall. News trucks surrounded the courthouse within hours. The story exploded across social media and national news networks. Racist judge exposed by FBI dominated headlines, while recordings of his most damaging statements played on repeat across every platform. Andre Mitchell was released from prison that same day, after serving 8 months for a crime he didn't commit. Judge Clarence Wilkes was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison and ordered to pay $2.3 million in restitution to the victims of his corrupt schemes. His judicial pension was revoked, his law license permanently suspended, and his reputation destroyed by his own recorded words. But Andre Mitchell's victory extended far beyond one corrupt judge's downfall. Standing on the courthouse steps where he'd been wrongfully convicted, Andre addressed a crowd of supporters and media with a message that resonated across the nation. "This isn't just about me," Andre said, his voice steady and determined. "This is about every person who's been judged by their skin color instead of the evidence. Every family destroyed by a system that values wealth over truth." Andre's case sparked the Millbrook reforms, comprehensive changes requiring all judicial proceedings to be recorded, creating citizen oversight boards, and establishing mandatory bias training for judges nationwide. His story became a rallying cry for legal reform advocates fighting similar battles in courtrooms across America. Today, Andre works as a legal advocate, helping families navigate a system he knows intimately from both sides. His mother, Dorothy, serves on a judicial oversight committee, ensuring no other family endures what they survived. The intersection where Andre was first arrested now bears a marker recognizing his fight for justice. Children walk past it daily, unaware that one man's courage helped reshape the legal system for generations to come. Sometimes the most powerful changes begin with one person's refusal to accept injustice as normal. Subscribe for more stories that expose corruption and fight for real change. And hit that notification bell, because next week, we're revealing how a school janitor's hidden identity brought down an entire district's leadership.